So we will now move on to our special inductee, Sverre Caldwell. Sverre not only built a nationally acclaimed Nordic program at Stratton Mountain School, earning multiple Coach of the Year and Program of the Year awards from U.S. Ski and Snowboard, but also holds the distinction of being the longest serving employee in SMS history with 39 years of dedicated service. For years, the SMS program has boasted at least one junior national champion and at least one member of the U.S. Junior World Championship team per year. Sverre Caldwell, a graduate of the Putney School and Dartmouth College, he joined SMS in 1980 as the head Nordic coach. He also served as a math teacher and later head master, very briefly. Only the second Nordic coach since the school opened in 1972, Sverre shaped the SMS program into a nationally recognized leader in preparing athletes for all levels of competition. To date, he has coached countless junior world team members, national team members, at least 12 Olympians, and has had at least one junior world, junior team member, and one junior national champion for 24 straight years. The USSA recognized Sverre as Coach of the Year in 2001, 2003, and 2009. The SMS program received the Roger Weston Award, honoring top girls and boys high school programs in 2008, 2009, and 2010. Sverre has coached the Olympic team in 1988, U.S. World Championships 2000, 2002, 2010, and the New England team to U.S. Junior Olympics 14 times. In 2013, Sverre was inducted into the Vermont Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame and is the recipient of the 2019 John Caldwell Award given by NENSA. Sverre is also the founder and driving force between the successful SMS T2 team. Many of you are here tonight. He is also responsible for creating and securing the funding needed to support the Stratton T2 elite team. The success of this program is undeniable, with both U.S. ski team athletes and coaches taking up residence during the summer months here in southern Vermont. Nowadays, Sverre is enjoying spending a lot of time with his 3 grandkids, Lily, Eva, and Lowell. So we will now have, in a moment, Matt Wickham, SMS class of 1997, present for Sverre. Matt currently serves as the head coach of the U.S. cross-country ski team. We have some serious heavy hitters here tonight. During a tenure that stretches back to his time as head coach of the women's team, Matt has overseen an especially transformative period of success for American skiing on the World Cup and at the Olympics. Izzy had referenced that, including the team's first World Cup overall championships, first Olympic medals in 40 years, since Bill Koch, who's somewhere out here, and numerous World Cup podiums for successive generations of U.S. skiers. Matt continues to be an advocate to create a cross-country development system through his leadership with the National Nordic Foundation. Please welcome Matt Wickham, presenter for Sverre Caldwell.
Thanks, Morgan. What a community. My family was drawn to Stratton Mountain School in 1996. We had heard of a famous ski coach up here who was doing an amazing job with the high school program. And I wanted to be coached by this guy. And you might think you hacked the plot of my story already, but I'm actually not talking about Sverre Caldwell. It was Sverre, however, that met my family in the parking lot on that September morning of '96 with some disappointing news that he was now the new head coach, and the more accomplished coach, Jim, had up and moved to Alaska. Now, Carson, I don't know how the school communicates these days, A little different back then. And, you know, of course, the Caldwells, some of them had already established names. John, you heard about his name already, Sverre's dad, really the grandfather of cross-country skiing in this country, a world-renowned coach. Sverre's brother, Tim. Tim, are you here tonight?
No.
Oh, it hurts. Tim, a famous World Cup skier, one of the best our country has ever seen, World Cup podiums to his name. In fact, 30 years to the date of his World Cup podium was Sophie's first World Cup win. And so, you know, while the Caldwell that I was inheriting didn't quite have that name yet, in spite of that, we would go on with Sverre and his co-coach Amy and our team that year to have what, for me, was an unforgettable year. It was life-changing and incredibly impactful. I'm now a coach going into my 25th year, and I attribute so much of that to Sverre. If I were to look back and try and summarize in one vacuum-packed sentence what I would guess Sverre's coaching philosophy is, it would be, if you want to make a group of skiers fast, teach them something about coaching. And you might have taught me just a little bit too much about coaching, could have focused a little more on the skiing with me, but what that means really is don't deliver the answers to the athletes on a platter. Don't give them everything. Make them figure some of that out. And to me, Sverre was all about figuring it out. And so my experience at Stratton, if you took a day on the golf course or out at the Nordic Center out over here, we'd be skiing along and you'd hear Sverre say, "Hey, you guys are skiing a little tense. Bring it in. I want to show you something." And he would drop his poles and he'd say, "Circle up. I want you all to drop your poles and first watch what I'm going to do here." And he would start swinging his arms, you know, just kind of demonstrating things very simply. And he'd say something so deliberately simple, and that was the genius in it. Like, take the muscle away from it. Swing just the bones and the skin, which was easy for Sverre to do, because... But a light bulb went on. You know, he would put it in a way that was different than any other coach that I ever ran into, different than the way that I can explain things. And the light bulb would go on for us, and we would get it. And then he'd say, "You know what else I feel when I swing my arms well? I start to feel at the bottom of the pendulum, I feel heat in the balls of my feet. I feel pressure and I feel softness in the ankles." And again, a light bulb would go on for us. Okay, I think we're starting to get it. He'd say, "Okay, now you try it. Grab your poles and get out of here. Go ski and figure it out." Figuring it out was the theme. I always looked forward to our weekly one-on-one meetings with Sverre. This was back in the old school, and this room was down by the mail room, by the student lounge, and in Sverre's office. I remember the couch being blue. You know, I'd sit on the couch, and he'd be at his desk twiddling a number 2 pencil, and he'd say, "Matt, how you doing?" I'd start the conversation, and I'd put some thought to it and come up with, you know, the most accurate expression of how I felt it was going. And I'd say something like, "Good." I thought it was going well. And over the course of the next 15 or 20 minutes, Sverre would tease out so much more from me that I had no idea that I possessed about skiing, about what I needed for recovery that week or training load. I was in that office to get an answer from Sverre, and Sverre was in that office to show us that we had the answer. And what a gift to give kids. Agency in what it is that we did. Agency and ownership in our skiing. It really made a difference for us. And you taught us that the best coach in the room was always going to be ourselves first. Some of you might remember a famous quote of Sverre's. Some of you in this room, I saw Ethan in here, have certainly had this quote said at you. And I'm going to try and get it right. But as I remember it, it was, don't be a donkey. And what that meant was, watch yourself. We're doing something important here. Sverre was always teaching us about sportsmanship. He was teaching us what it meant and what it still means today to be a cross-country skier from Stratton Mountain School. You taught us that we were handed a torch and we were expected to carry that torch and deliver it to the next generation of kids brighter. I had the chance to talk with the Sverre Caldwell of the West last week. This guy's name is Rick Kapala. And I said, hey, Rick, I was out there visiting my sister. I said, Rick, you have a few minutes to talk about Sverre. He just put his head down. He just started shaking it. And he's like, Matt, in my 40-some years of coaching, the Sun Valley team and the Intermountain West Junior National team, anytime one of our skiers was beaten out in the final moments of the race, it was always a skier from Stratton. It was always a skier from Stratton. I just knew it. And what was worse is that I would go and try and find Sverre after the race, and he was always just so humble and gracious with that wry grin that he's wearing right now that Rick just wanted to tear off. And Rick said he'd walk away from that conversation just kind of shaking his head, wondering how you did it. How did you do it? And for me, Sverre, I don't think it was so much what you taught us about skiing. It was what you taught us about being. You took a group of high school age kids, 8th grade, all the way up to PG, and we're cross-country skiers, we're awkward kids. You made us feel safe. You made us feel comfortable in who we are. You let us be ourselves within certain parameters. You taught us that we belonged to something important. You gave us purpose. You taught us about the legacy that we had been handed and the legacy that we were expected to deliver. And do you know what happens when you're the guy that's responsible for making high school kids feel purpose and safety and belonging? We remember you. We remember you, Sverre. And the other thing that happens is we win a lot of ski races. And so, thank you for everything, and let's enjoy a video.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Matt. And thanks, everyone, for coming. This is a real honor for me to be inducted along with Pam and Sophie. Means a whole lot, and so thanks. First and foremost, I want to thank SMS for giving me the opportunity to work here. It turned into my dream job and my passion. So thank you to everyone involved. My previous job had been in Putney School, where I was headmaster of the biggest dorm. I taught 4 classes, 60 kids, and I coached every afternoon. I was scrambling the whole time and liked portions of it, but didn't feel like I could do anything very well. At Stratton, I was hired to coach a small group of dedicated athletes. I thought, I can do this. When I came to Stratton in 1980, the school and I were both young. Pam Fletcher was part of a strong women's team that was ripping it up, and personal computers were not invented yet. I know most of you weren't even born yet, but that's good. Truth be known, I didn't know a whole lot about coaching, but my timing was good. I inherited a really strong team and they did well, so I got instant credibility. Undoubtedly, I made a bunch of bonehead moves and mistakes. I was probably the turkey that Matt said I told him not to be. We were all trying to figure things out. And if it hadn't been for the strong leadership of people like Bill Dunkel and Larry Herrick, who knows where we would have ended. So thank you, Bill and Larry, and all the rest of the stalwart staff who were here at the time. When you do anything for 39 years, you'd better know how to adapt and change. Looking back over my tenure, I think there were 3 kind of periods that helped me evolve most as a coach. I mean, I really learned something every day, but there are 3 periods where I'm going to talk about tonight. The first was the early 90s, 92 to 96, where I was asked to be headmaster. I hated it. Everyone wanted a better school, but we didn't have any roadmap in how to get there. My predecessor had been the self-described minister of happiness, and it was almost as if the inmates were running the asylum. I felt it was my job to clean up Dodge. Any and all problems of the school landed on my desk. I agonized over every decision. I was overwhelmed, and I missed coaching. So, I went back. When I returned to coaching, I remember being so happy. Once again, I felt like this is a job I can do. But I'd learned from being headmaster. I'm a firm believer in our mission statement because we really do provide the framework to help our students pursue excellence in academics, athletics, and personal growth. So as I returned to coaching, I was determined to run a program where we would find ways to help my team strive to improve in all areas. We would be better organized and become good communicators. I also viewed it as our job to make sure that there were no problems from the Nordic team that ended on the headmaster's desk. The second time was about 10 years later in the early 2000s. We had a really strong team that just seemed to gel. Yet these 2 seemingly minor things meant a lot to me. The first was when my daughter Sophie, who was a 7th grade winter termer, asked if she could have $5 and a ride to Viking Ski Touring Center because she and 3 or 4 of her young teammates wanted to have a day of skiing together with money to buy a bowl of soup at their lunch break. The other, I think it was over Christmas vacation, was I was out skiing at Wild Wings and I ran into one of our skiers, Ethan Foster. Ethan was skiing along with one pole. I asked him, "Why are you skiing with one pole?" And he said, "Duh, I'm doing it in case I break a pole in a race. I need to be prepared." These 2 things were aha moments for me. It meant things were working. These skiers were not depending on the coaches to tell them what to do. They were doing it for pleasure, and they were curious enough to figure things out on their own. This is when I began thinking of my role to be more of a teacher. Now, Larry flipped it. But regardless, I felt more like I don't have to be the leader. I can really just be more of a teacher. Of course, we had to be organized and design a good program. Of course, we had to be positive, help everyone, and be good communicators. But the real success came when athletes understood the training well enough to take ownership of what they were doing. It was no longer our job to make skiers faster. It was our job to help them learn how to make themselves faster. Educate them, give them ownership of the process, and help them find success. Okay, jump another 10 years, this last one. Early 2010s. I love goal setting. If you set a goal and really work at it, you should be able to achieve it. Our team had now been kicking ass for 15 years. We were clearly one of the top junior programs in the country, but we were still not having great international success. Every June at graduation, I got to stand up in front of everyone and sing the praises of our graduating seniors and their achievements. But then friggin' Ross Powers would stand up and tell us about the snowboarders. They were winning on the world stage. How could we do what Ross is doing? Challenge accepted. Okay, I thought, we need to start a senior program with a mission of international excellence and local inspiration. The juniors will have great role models and be able to jump in behind the older skiers. The older skiers will have coaching, a home base, the ability to work with other strong skiers, and an expanded fan base. So we started a club. It helped that 3 of the 6 skiers we recruited were SMS alums, Andy Newell, Sophie, and Skylar Davis. It also helped that one of the others was a young lady named Jessie Diggins. We all worked together. The senior skiers had a coach, Gus, another SMS alum, some financial support, and great teammates to work with. The juniors had strong role models to emulate. It worked. Within 5 years, we had collectively won medals at every level in major international competition. Youth Olympic Games, Junior World Championships, U23 World Championships, World Championships, and the Olympics. It was, it's nice when a plan comes together. Now I'll end where I started. I want to thank SMS for giving me the opportunity to work here and for the support of everyone involved. It really is a collective effort. Every person who walks through these doors plays a role in what happens. All of the Nordic skiers and coaches played a huge role in what happened. All successes and failures should be shared. The key is to learn from every experience. If you strip away everything else and go back to our mission statement, good things can and will happen. Provide an environment to pursue excellence. Keep the focus on trying to get better and enjoy the ride. Thank you.